Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm going to show you how to create a value scale on your palette, and we're going to do 3 different value scales. Now, as you can see at the moment, my glass palette is not working really well because I have this huge glare from the light above me. So we're just going to use this Throwaway palette for the purpose of this lesson, but I rarely use these anymore because I was creating so much waste, but for us, this is going to be really nice to use right now. Okay, so we need to create a value scale on our palette, and what that means is however we're moving forward, we're going to have to create light to dark paint pigments. And so if you were creating a background with color, then you're probably going to be using a color to create your value scale. So I'm going to say that we're going to start with a cadmium orange value scale on the left. I'm also going to show you a cobalt blue value scale because you may not be doing only a face. You may be doing something else where you're focusing on a large portion of a painting like that is like trees or I don't know, like something a little bit crazy. If you are doing a completely grayscale grisaille painting and then doing color glazes later, then your value scale to begin with is always going to be just white and black. Either way though, we're going to need white and black plus our colors to create a value scale. So no matter what, we're going to need white and black. And personally, I use titanium white and carbon black, but I know a lot of people that use Mars black. This is totally a preference of what you like. So my carbon black has a little bit more blue in it, and I really just like the way it looks. So that is why I do that. Okay, so how I would begin is I always put my pure paint pigment in the middle. And then what I do is know that that's where I'm going to stop for my lightest value scales, working from top to bottom, and my darkest value scales will go from here down. Why don't we give it a try? So I'm going to add titanium white to the top here, and I'm going to add carbon black here, and we'll see if we need to add any more paint after we do this. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is mix them up. Palette knife, so important. You could mix with your paintbrush, but your paintbrush is filled with all these tiny little hairs and it's going to get filled up really quickly with paint. So this just is the best way to save the most amount of paint. I'm taking a little bit of my pure pigment and adding it to my white up here. You just kind of want to make sure you just scrape it up and make sure it's really blended well. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And now it's very light. I don't like to have pure white on my palette because it's just really not that natural. Usually there's a little bit of color in the real world. Otherwise it can make everything look a little bit too high contrast. Okay, so I don't need a lot of that pure white or my highest value pigment, like rarely, so I only keep a little bit up there and then move this down. Let me wipe this off first, and we're going to do the same thing again. How much should you add? Like just a little bit. If you need to add more as you go, you can, but I don't add a ton of paint. You don't really need to use a ton of paint when you're doing this either, because keep in mind that you're going to be adding your gloss glazing liquid to this, so it kind of makes it like you get more. I'm going to take all of this and bring it down, and we're going to do it again. Do it again. Oops. That was a lot. It's okay though. I'm sure you're getting the idea. All right, so that is looking pretty good, and I'm getting a really nice value from lights to my pure pigment at the moment. You have a couple of options to move forward. You can either create like a grayscale as well, where you're taking some of this and adding a little bit of black to it. I really don't do that anymore though, because if I need to make small adjustments, I could do it off to the side. I like to start here with my pure pigment and just begin with the darker values. So why don't we do that? And I'm actually just gonna take a lot of this because if I need to add more pure pigment, that's not gonna be hard to do, just straight out of the tube. Now a little bit of black goes a long way, so I barely, like look at, I'm not barely adding a lot of black to here, and I'm just gonna add it in. Like, look how quickly this changes. Oops. So if I were starting a portrait and I was only working on the face, this is how I would do it. Does it have to be this color? No, you're going to be doing this for every color that you're needing for your painting in the beginning. When you get close to the end, you're not going to have to do this anymore. You're just going to be doing glazes of color, and that's kind of straight out of the tube. But in the beginning, we really do want to create a value scale because we're only focusing on our highlights, our midtones, and our shadows. And that's what makes this painting process so much easier than trying to match every color on a reference photo or every color from the subject that you are working off of. And that's it. So that's how you would do that. You would put some gloss glazing liquid here, and then you would always add gloss glazing liquid to the mixtures that you've created. Let's do a cobalt blue one. Now this one, I'm not going to do any talking. I'm just going to do it real fast so you can watch it. Okay, so here's something that I probably should have said before, but you're probably wondering, should you put every color of your painting on your palette to begin with when you first start painting? No, absolutely not. Only focus on one color, one value scale at a time. So really it's up to you about how you move forward, but how I like to do it, and I think it's the easiest, is to start with your darkest colors first, create your value scales, and always then work up to your lightest color. This way, when you're laying them on top, it's going to create a really nice gradient that looks three-dimensional. So no, if this were a real painting, you'd only either be doing orange or you would be doing blue, or one color at a time. Don't mix all your colors up at once because acrylic dries so fast and it can become overwhelming. So only focus on one at a time. Hopefully I've said it enough times that it sticks. Okay, so our last one that we're going to do is pretty straightforward. It is our value scale if we're working on a gray background or a gray gesso. And if we're not focusing on color at all, we're only focusing on our highlights and midtones. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I'm keeping it off to the side a little bit so you can tell the difference. And we're going to do the same exact thing. And as you notice, I still added my black to my pure white because no matter what, I don't think white should ever be on a palette, just pure straight out of the tube white. It should always really be mixed with something because realism is really in the middle values, is found in the middle values rather than high contrast lights and darks. So if you're only focusing on your middle values, you're probably going to get something a little bit more realistic than not. And I'm going to just add a little bit more. It's harder to see the grayscale one as easily. It's really good to, just double check that you're working on a gray background on your palette too, so you can see the slight differences. And I might just cheat a little bit, and as you can tell too, like, don't do this. Make sure your paints are completely mixed together. I'm kind of speeding through this because I want to make sure I'm not taking up too much of your time. Okay, so I'm going to speed through this, cheat a little bit. We're just not going to, I think you get the idea. And we're just going to go a little bit faster, until you get to a darkest value. And we'll just do one more. So anyhow, obviously I did a poor job. This is not how I would do it in a real painting. I'd probably make sure it was a little bit more evenly dispersed with paint, but this still works, honestly, because remember, you're adding your gloss glazing liquid to the paint anyhow. So